Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rob Swanson back with another Real Estate Mogul Show. We've got the crew back in the studio, and we've got some great things to be talking about this week. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to try to keep the energy up and keep the fun up and keep the education up the entire time throughout this entire show. What I want you to do, if you like it, it is a lot of pressure. It is a lot of pressure. If you like this, guys, what I want you to do is subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player. I also want you to subscribe and hit the like button on YouTube and just help our algorithms out. Hey, this is what we noticed the other day in our content meeting. We are actually getting some pretty good watch time in our YouTube analytics. And here's what it tells us. It tells us that we're hopefully doing something right. We're making the content interesting and valuable, entertaining, because we know what you guys have to compete with. Us, you've got YouTube, and you've got Hulu, and you've got Netflix, and you've got the Discovery Channel, and you've got, I don't know, what else you got? Does anybody watch the Discovery Channel?
What? No.
We have the History Channel.
Yeah, the History Channel. I don't know. That just like things are going downhill really fast there. I don't know. All right, guys. Why don't we do a quick hello in the studio? Who wants to kick us off today? Are we around the corner on the boards or are we on the couch?
I'm going to go first today.
All right, look at that jumping in.
Around the corner on the boards. Yeah, I'm doing good. Still on my Duolingo kick.
I knew that was coming. I was like, what day are we on? How far are we at?
I don't know my phone. I think I'm on 27 or 28, something like that. So it's going good. My daughter is also jumping in on the mix with me. So she's 20 days behind me. Shout out Brooklyn in Vallejo, California.
I dig it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
It's super fun. I mean, it was something that it's nice to always have those people, right? This speaks to proximity. And even if it's digital proximity, her and I are like encouraging each other each day. And then what else? If you go to your deck there, Rob, you can see a little video of me. The other night, we had a little get together with some friends. And, is it not on there?
Let's see.
Bummer. Nope. I put it. It was going to be an incredible handstand that I did for about 10 seconds over at Cheeseman Park. And it was super fun. We said goodbye to a few friends who were heading over to Europe. So, but yeah, man, doing good.
Do you always handstand when you say goodbye to friends?
Yeah, most of the time. It's, 95% of the time I'm handstanding.
Okay.
Jeez. Oh, my gosh. I don't even know who we have around here.
Yeah.
What?
Who do you let into this show, Rob? Anybody.
Anybody.
Unbelievable. Cool. Well, let's bring it over to here to the couch. What's up?
Yeah. Barbecue over the weekend was great. I know you're going to talk about these pictures, but last Friday we had the barbecue. That was awesome. And what did we do this weekend? Olivia and I did a pretty large, epic hike day out to 4 alpine lakes. I think out and back we probably did about 9 or 10 miles.
Nice.
Hiking wise. My G-Shock watch had 27,000 steps from the time we left the driveway until we got back home that night. 27,000 steps.
Wow.
Sweet.
That was great. Yeah, it was fun. Exhausted the next day. Finally recouping.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mike, you're up.
Recouping, but from having sick kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Our kids got smacked a couple weeks ago. Our oldest daughter, middle child, got it first. Then little got it. And we call them big, middle, and little. So middle started it. Then little got it. Then our son, that's big. He's 9, but he got it the worst. So he got run over. So they didn't make the barbecue. But I was thinking, how many years in a row have we done the barbecue now? 4?
Oh, no. A lot longer than that.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
My memory's... Anyway, barbecue was good.
We've been doing it for at least 10 years.
Throw that.
But I don't think I've always been able to make it.
Oh, no. We have done probably the last 4, maybe 5 years. We've done it at my house.
Right.
Before that, we often did a big Friday barbecue here at the office. I'd bring the
I was
grill over,
specifically
smoke it
to the
over.
house.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I remember more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Ruckuses are a hit.
They're always
Yeah.
Rob.
Throw those up on the screen, Rob.
The
Check it out.
Ruckuses are a hit.
Couple fun pics of friends playing some
Little cornhole.
Yeah, we had some cornhole going. Steve was in town with his family finally, and they rode on the Ruckuses. That was awesome.
you know,
That was cool.
It seems like the barbecue has turned into get fed and then ruckus. Am I off
Yeah.
here?
Well, no, that's pretty much right. I mean, so we used to bring the grill here to the office,
Yep.
and we'd bring a smoker, or we'd bring a bunch of big coolers and drinks, and we'd sit out in the parking lot or underneath the big shade tree, and it was always fun. We'd hang out in the morning, we'd do a little bit of work, and then pretty much we were horsing around and cooking food and stuff in and out into the parking lot. And I don't know what caused the transition to I don't know what caused the transition to starting to do it at my house, but a few years ago we started doing it at my house, and it's a hit. It's a lot of fun, and I get up at 5 in the morning and I throw the 6 to 7 racks
Dedicated.
of ribs on.
Yep.
And
The ribs were. Well, this is a year ago. I can't remember what I did 2 weekends ago. I felt like the ribs were extra tender.
this year they
Maybe
were
they're
good.
always
They were
that
good.
way, but they were. I mean, I could have left my teeth at home and still could have eaten them.
The ribs were really good. A gal that used to work for me years ago on the marketing team, she had a whole bunch of different roles, and ultimately had to leave for some health reasons back in the day, number of years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago now. But her husband was a barbecuer, and he would do barbecue competitions, and he would go, and he actually had placed in the Colorado State barbecue competitions, got blue ribbons and red ribbons and whatever you get. And so I started smoking ribs, and I wanted to get good at it. And so I was practicing, I was trying different things. And then for Christmas one year, so every year for Christmas, my wife inevitably gives me 1 or 2 cooking books. My wife and I are foodies. We love to cook food. We love to host people. We love to entertain, that kind of thing. But it always revolves around the food. Like we're foodies more than we are. Like, people don't come over to our home usually and play games. Like, we're not big game players, but we do like to cook food. And so she gave me a number of years ago, I don't know, 8 years ago now, 7 years ago, a couple of barbecue books. And there's this guy out of Cleveland who wrote a barbecue book that I started to read his stuff, and I started to follow his approach, and he would talk about the different ways to cook barbecue. And I know this is not real estate related at all, but he would talk about the different ways to cook barbecue. I could do a whole show on just food and cooking. And well, anyway, I got into it, started cooking it, and I agree. They were really good this year.
Better than last year. Last year was good, but this year was.
I felt okay. I'm not alone.
No,
here.
no,
I
you're
felt
right.
like they were.
You're right.
I took the first bite and thought,
Yeah, they
Oh.
were really good. They
That's-
were really good. And so it comes down to a couple things. It comes down to the quality of meat that you start with. It comes down to you've got to hit it with a good dry rub the night before, wrap it, and just let it sit in the refrigerator overnight. And then it comes down to the process. And I do just a very classic 3-2-1.
3-2-1. Yep.
Right? 3 hours in the smoke, 2 hours in a wrap, and then an hour at higher heat with a bark to put a bark on it. And yeah, they were good, man. They were good. But yeah, I don't know if you guys are seeing up on the screen those little scooters. We've got 5 of them at my house. And they're a lot of fun. They're little Honda Ruckus scooters, 49cc. You don't need a motorcycle license. If you're under 18, you gotta wear a helmet, and if you're driving, you gotta have eye protection. But other than that, we just go cruise the neighborhoods. We just go cruise.
yeah.
They're super fun, and people had a blast. Good.
And our older kids, so our son couldn't make it. He was sick all day. Unfortunately, he didn't come. But usually, I put them on the front, right? But I let them drive because they know how to ride a bike, and they get the biggest
Oh yeah,
kick out of it.
yeah. They're super fun.
Right.
They're super fun. We we always take them. My wife and I will get up on a Saturday morning and we'll cruise down into Louisville or Lafayette, two little cities at 2 miles both ways for us. And we'll go to the farmers market. We'll go just hang out. They're fun. They're good to kick around on. Pretty neat. We did also a hike on Sunday. Did you hike Saturday?
Saturday morning.
So we hiked. No, we did it Saturday too. Yeah, Saturday. We did Kruger Peak up to Estes Park, towards Estes Park. We didn't go quite into Estes Park, a little bit short of Estes Park. Kruger Peak, awesome views of Estes Park from Kruger Rock up on top. Pretty neat.
So funny you mentioned that, because when we left your house on Friday, we were not going to do the hike that we did on Saturday, because I had in my head we were going to go do Fern Lake out of Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yeah.
And I wanted to fish Fern Lake for the cutthroat back there. And we left your house at 4:45, and I had a timer to remind me to log on to colorado.gov to do the timed entry.
Yeah.
Because that's just an insane concept now. I guess it's not insane, but it's really hard to do. So we're at a stoplight trying to log in. 5 o'clock hits. The 130 slots per 2-hour window come up. So 6 to 8, 8 to 10. In a matter of 5 seconds, the whole Saturday is gone. And she was logging in and she was there, and it just disappeared. And so you can't go. It's in a matter of 5 seconds, you cannot go to Rocky on Saturday.
Time to move to Montana. Is that what I just heard?
No, I mean, Montana would probably be the same. Yellowstone, you have to book out months in advance. Tetons, you got to book out months in advance.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's crazy. Well, hey, let's take a little turn here, and let's get into the regular part of the show. I guess this is regular part of the show, because at the end of the day, I think having, real estate investing makes life fun. Not because real estate investing is fun to everyone, but what real estate investing affords us as humans, as people, is pretty fun. And so one of the things I want us to talk about here today is work-life balance. Does it exist?
Short answer,
Bam!
yes.
Yes.
You guys both say yes.
Very much so. It has to. For me personally, at least.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're asking us. I think as a society, I would answer that different. I think there's a ton of pressure to just work constantly and accumulate stuff. Our family specifically, and I feel a very strong pull towards being a dad. And it's interesting. A guy said it to me again. I took our daughter out over the weekend, and we went and hit golf balls for the first time. And so the other two didn't feel good, but Kenzie felt fine. And let's go hit golf balls. So we lived near a course, and we went over, and we're getting out of the car, and we're walking in, and we've got a kid's set of clubs, and I've got mine on my back. And a guy goes or we're in the parking lot, and we're just getting ready to walk in, and this guy goes walking by, and he goes, "Don't miss this. Before you know it, they're 17." Clearly, his youngest is 17, and he's walking by, and I've heard this over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I had planned to do my best to not miss it, but then that has been reinforced hundreds of times by strangers. And so in our house, it's a big topic, right? And Henry gets pretty frustrated at asking me to go fishing with him. And
it has
my
nothing to do
answer
with
is
fishing. We just want to hang out with you.
No, that's not it.
It has nothing to do with fishing. It doesn't even really have anything to hang out. It has to do with he throws down the we have to pay to hang out with him.
Shout out 2 episodes ago.
That was one time. That's fine if you don't let that go. That's fine. I get it. But yeah, that's an example. And it's interesting because I want to go fishing. Henry, I would like to go fishing with you, and we will at some point. But my wife and I have had very real conversations about this. This season that we're in won't be here long.
My wife and I have a lot of fake conversations. I know yours are real.
And our oldest is about to be 10, and that, how this feels. I remember the day he was born.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem that long ago. Joe, you know what this is like.
Oh,
Henry,
yeah.
you will know what this is like.
Yeah, we need to find a middle spot when you get out of the season before I get into the season, so
No,
we can
you're-
actually hang out a
Right,
little
you're
bit.
going to be into it, and then we'll be hanging out when I'm 80.
So here's the question, though.
Yep.
Does work-life balance exist? Work-life balance. Does it exist?
I think that depends on who you are and how you manage it. So it can exist for you. It's what are your priorities? Just like Mike's talking about.
Did we just get a radio announcer joining our show?
That's right.
Because this sounds...
Incredible.
Smooth and jazzy.
Whoa, yeah.
I've done a lot of podcasts. But yeah, I think it can exist, but it has to exist within your own framework of what works for you and your family or your situation.
Because I'm going to argue no. I'm going to say no. Work-life balance
Rob, I knew you were
doesn't
going there
exist.
because you asked it again, and I could tell by the way you asked it. So regardless of what the three of us said, go ahead.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just going to take it. I'm just going to take the antithesis point of view, right? The opposite point of view. I'm going to say work-life balance doesn't exist because I'm going to say that you go through seasons and sprints of unbalance, and you unbalance one direction, and then you unbalance the other direction. And if you try to balance in the middle, you're going to get nothing done. If you try to balance...
So to have a perfect 50-50.
To have a perfect balance, to have balance, you're not going to get anything done. So I would say that you're either balanced to life, or you're balanced to work, or you're balanced to, a more work objective, whether it's your W-2 or it's real estate investing or it's whatever, or you're balanced towards recreation, personal life, kids, family, that kind of stuff. And so I would say that if you try to live in the middle, both of them at some degree are going to suffer. You're not going to produce what you are capable of producing on the work side. You're not going to get what you're capable of getting out of the personal side. And yet I don't think that means you have to live an unbalanced life. But I think it's a sprint that can actually vary day to day. But I think there are days where you sprint hard and you've got, you find yourself at 7:30 at night still cranking something away. And then the next day you find yourself at 8 o'clock in the morning heading to the mountains with your kids, right? And so those are 2 days back to back that are unbalanced. But I don't think that if you try to live balance, I don't think it works.
So I'm going to push back a little. Macro, that I would still call that balance. If you're going to look at this hour or this 4 hours or this 8 hours or this day, yeah, it could be lopsided. But I don't think you ever, when you say it doesn't exist, you don't ever mean, oh, I'm going to go on a work run and hey, family, I'll see you in a month. I don't recall that you've ever gone quite to that extreme. And then the other part of it I would bring in too is, anybody who's busy and they say, and if they ask me this question, what kind of marketing should I do? I immediately say direct mail. Because you can go in and send it at 11:30 at night. You can do it in a couple minutes. You can get a list together, right? Referring back to FreedomSoft, pull a list, analyze a list, and you are just coming off. By the way, first 2 days of the Virtual Market Challenge, I know this podcast comes out a week later, but on fire. Killer stuff. And that's a highly leveraged activity where you can go make a big impact in 5 minutes. That fits into a busy life. Anybody can say, kids, I need 5 minutes.
Yep.
I need 5 minutes. And you can go get it out the door even ahead of going to your hike or going to go fishing or whatever the case, and you're still building in that. And on the flip side, I can go home and try and connect we have 3 kids, a shorter time of one-on-one, and they still feel like, Dad took some time out to be with me today. It doesn't have to be, hey, we got to go spend 8 hours together, right? Now, I like building in the bigger family days and that kind of stuff too, or try to, but it doesn't have to be either on the work side or on the family side. It doesn't have to be necessarily a function of a huge chunk of time.
Yeah, it's not a black and white. I mean, I come at it from, hearing about this in terms of my generation, how I hear people think about work-life balance. You were defining it in a way as like, how are you, like, is it a 50-50? Like the definition of balance, you're trying to do it 50-50. But at least from what I hear in my generation, Rob, is what a lot of people are making sure that they have in their life is a work-life balance that is, they're not grinding for a job, a W-2 that is not very meaningful or purposeful or gives them fulfillment. So why would you spend that much time doing that thing when you can just go and enjoy life because life's short, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm a little bit on your side on the pushback because, I hear that in my generation, but I don't think like that because me personally, I have a work-life balance, but it's not 50-50. It never will be 50-50 because to do the things that I want to do on the life side, I know that there are things that I got to get done on the work side. Mm-hmm. And I have to prioritize some over the other sometimes where there will be sacrifices, but the payoff is there. Yep. Now on how I view work-life balance is, there are things that I have to be doing on the life side of things that actually help me do better on the work side of things. So I know, Joe, on here you were talking about, like, are you meditating? Are you going to church? Are you praying? Are you going to the gym? Are you focusing on your spiritual, physical, all that stuff? If you focus on that, I mean, I've found that I'm more successful and I have a bigger impact on the work side of things, which allows me to not work so hard and so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally, I hear what you guys are saying. I just think that people that focus on work-life balance, I think there's a sprint, and I think that it's always living from one imbalance to the next. I don't think it's balanced. I think it's living from one imbalance to the next and deciding in every moment, where is my imbalance? And sometimes imbalances last longer than others, right? But I think that this doesn't mean you have to sacrifice work or family, right? Work or personal. You don't have to sacrifice either one. But if you set a vision for what you want out of your life, and maybe that's what we should step back and ask, mm-hmm. right? I think it all comes back to the vision. What goal are you trying to accomplish? And does what you're doing throughout your day match and align with accomplishing that goal? I think too many people don't have a game plan. Mm-hmm. They don't have a target. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they're shooting for. And you're going to miss 100% of the targets you don't shoot at, mm-hmm. right? And so you've got to go and figure out what your vision, what your target is. And you can do that in all different aspects and areas of life, right? You can do that in personal. You can do that in business. You can do that in relationships. You can do that with your kids. You can do that in recreation. You can do that in spiritual. You can do that in health. You can do that in, right? The slices of the pie are many. And every one of those slices of the pie, you can have a vision for what life should look like in that slice of the pie. And then that creates a holistic total of what you get to go shoot for. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think real estate investing does, and it's because real estate investing is a large margin cash generator, right? You can turn a $10 bill into a $5,000 check. You can turn a $10 bill into a $15,000 check. You can turn a $10 bill into a $25,000 check and more. And it's a cash flow creator, right? So real estate investing helps you generate cash and create cash flow. And so when I start to think about the vision, I think of money as just a tool, right? Money is the tool that helps me accomplish and do something else in life. And getting clear on that vision. That's why my wife and I always talk about life by design. We're clear about what we want out of life. And then we utilize the various tools, skills, knowledge, opportunities that we have to go craft that life. And I think a lot of people don't do that, which is why sometimes entrepreneurs wake up and say, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've been working and grinding and hustling, and they're like, for what? Because they don't have a vision, they don't have a direction, they don't have a place, a destination they're shooting for. And I've always had that from the very beginning. I remember back years ago when I was just getting into this business, my kids were little, and we jumped. This was back in the days of the minivan, baby. We jumped in the minivan. Maybe we had our Tahoe. Maybe we had sold the minivan. No, I think we were in the minivan. I didn't last long in a minivan. That thing sucked. I hated that. We got into
You guys
the
have
Tahoe.
minivan?
Love ours.
Dude, I loved it.
Hated the minivan.
Oh man, I loved mine too. Toyota Astrovan was the jam.
Hated the minivan. Loved the Tahoe. Okay, Tahoe was awesome. But I'm pretty sure this trip we did the minivan. And so we left Denver, and we were going for 30 days. And real estate investing afforded us the ability to do that. And this was back in the day when it was harder. Like Freedom Soft didn't exist. The technology that made it so much easier to stay organized and do all the stuff we wanted to do didn't exist. And so, and yet we took off out of Denver, and we were going to do this big roundabout 30-day road trip. We were going to be gone for the entire summer month of probably June, mid-June to mid-July. And we got out to Nashville on one of our stops. My wife's best friend from childhood lives out there. Hey, shout out, Kirsten. If you're listening to this, which I think you've told me you do. So, hey, what's up? We stopped at Kirsten's house, and we're hanging out, and the kids are playing, and Melita and Kirsten are doing their thing. And after a few days of that, I'm like, I'm antsy. Like, I got to go do something. And so, long story short, I ended up going out and doing a real estate deal in Nashville while we were on vacation. And so I went out and I got this deal under contract, and I'm like, sandwich lease option. I got it under contract with a lease with a purchase to buy, and then I leased it out and then sold an option to purchase. And so I left Nashville with $3,500 in my pocket and a $3,500 check coming 2 weeks later. And I leased the property for $930 a month, and I subleased it for $1,550 a month. So I walked out of there with $500, $600 a month net cash flow plus cash in my pocket on vacation. And then we tooled the rest of our 30-day trip around the country and just hung out. Real estate, when you have a design for how you want your life to be and what real estate can afford you, is an awesome vehicle to do that and design your life around.
No doubt. We've had multiple students over the years. I remember one guy chimed in to a coaching call one time from Prague, and I said, wait a minute, I thought you live in Vail. And it was a local guy, Vail, Colorado, just up in the mountains, ski town. And he's like, yeah, but I like Prague, so I'm over here for 6 months. We've had a couple people specifically, which I find pretty interesting in our Kickstart program, who have called in from Israel a couple times a week.
Yep.
So when you hear the comment, live anywhere, right? So Rob, I remember you tell me this years ago, live where you want, buy and sell where it makes sense.
Yep.
Doing the virtual market challenge this week.
Yep.
Right? We're 2 days in. So live anywhere literally means live anywhere.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And now I like to say, live where you want, invest where it makes dollars. Cents,
I
dollars.
got it. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't kidding about the nerd thing.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll bring the nerd factor back here at the end. I don't know. So I don't know. What do you guys want out of real estate investing? Let's just talk about that for a second. We're talking like instead of going into a technical real estate investing discussion, let's talk about what real estate does for our lives. Because I think that's probably more interesting to people than not. Meaning, yeah, let's learn about the technical thing, and let's learn about how to buy subject to, and let's learn about how to get private money, and let's learn about how to buy this rental property, and let's learn about all. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just nice to talk about what all of that work produces. And it produces freedom.
One thing that I've talked about recently with a buddy of mine was I was kind of taking the opposite approach of, real estate for me. I wasn't really hitting on much of it's allowed me to go on this trip, to go buy this, to go do this. It was really more I was talking about the feeling that it's given me as far as like building something that's my own, right? I created it. Whereas before, and I've told Joe this, but like, the money that I've made from wholesaling and now buying rentals, that started from, it was $3,000 in a funny Robinhood account that was for doing like Dogecoin and like dumb crypto stuff, right? And I don't know where
You just
that
offended so many.
I don't care. It's like,
Including me.
yeah. Well, it's like, so it wasn't doing anything. So I was like, rewind back 2 years ago. I was like, let's do some marketing with it, and that $2,800 or whatever that was has turned into rental properties and 25, 26 odd wholesale deals across close to 2 years now. And prior to that, I didn't have LLCs under my name. I didn't have something that I could really boast about that I had built. So real estate in general has given me something that is mine, right? It's I work for myself when it comes to that. I can build whatever I want. I can do whatever I want, and I control it. It's not the stock market. It's not a cryptocurrency. I have full control over what I can do, and that's pretty freeing. Outside, and then you could talk about, you can go on cool trips. You can do this. You can do that, right? You can buy this, but internally, being able to say that it gives me fulfillment to say that I've built something is pretty good. I like it.
100%. The biggest regret I have in real estate investing in over 20 years?
Selling
Selling a property.
Yeah.
I never should have sold anything that I owned. Who knew?
Well,
I guess the old guys knew,
hindsight.
right? But if you hear that, and if somebody can hear that, and there were times over the last 20 years where I thought, man, I overpaid. I paid too much. Man, the market's at its top. I shouldn't buy this house at this price or this piece of real estate at that price or whatever. And, we've been in a run with, asset price appreciation and price inflation. So we've been on a run, and it's been a unique run of the market since the crash of '08 to where we are today, with a lot of economic factors just pushing prices up. So every time you think you're at the top, it goes a little bit higher. There's a point at which it can't continue because people can't afford it, right? When job growth and incomes don't keep up with rising prices, especially with the fact that interest rates have been historically low and are still historically low, even with the slight increase over the last 12, 18 months, there comes a point where it's got to plateau, or they have to just continue to flood the market and then ultimately devalue the currency. But that's a whole nother topic that we won't get into. The point of the matter is the biggest regret is selling real estate. And so buy real estate and hold real estate and cash flow real estate. I used to fix and flip a lot of houses, and I got nothing against fix and flip, but that's the hardest way to make money as a real estate investor. Sometimes it's fun, but it's the hard way to do it, right? If you end up making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on a flip, that's good money. Don't get me wrong. You can work 6 months and make 40 grand. Good. Okay, you do that twice a year and you make 80 grand. You make a nice annual salary, right? Do that 4 times a year, and it starts to add up, and so on and so forth. And guys, do 50, 75, 100 of those a year. But now you've got a whole operation, you've got payroll, you've got a whole nother thing that starts to eat into your margins. And personally, I like to wholesale for cash. I like to buy and hold for cash flow. And I have not fix and flipped a house in years because I'm like, why?
When was the last one? Do you remember? 09 or 10?
Oh, no. It was more recently than that, probably.
So you've
13 or
renovated
13
you've
or
renovated
14.
rentals, but not specifically renovate to then sell.
Right. Fix and flip.
Yep.
I have
Yep.
done, I mean, I've renovated, lots of rentals, but not fix and flip, buy it low, fix it up, immediately sell it for cash profit. Because I've always thought every house that I've regretted, I sold. And so if I can buy it, I should figure out how to buy it right, make sure that it cash flows, make sure that it's a property that I want to put in my portfolio, keep it long term, or I'll just wholesale it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've approached it. And that's been awesome for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about work-life balance here. So, like for me, I obviously got mentored by you two, but I mean, we teach a proven wealth journey, and we talk a lot about it in the Real Estate Mogul Academy. But the first 2 steps are where I'm at right now: build cash flow. And the point of that for me, now that we're talking about workflow or work-life balance, is I want that cash flow to outweigh the monthly expenses that my family has. For me personally, that is freeing, in which everything else on top of that is just icing on the cake. Now we can do whatever we want to do because the rentals are working for us.
Yep.
Right. And if we're talking about work-life balance, now you're opening up a whole side of your life where you can go and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Which is freeing for sure.
Well, those 5 steps in that wealth journey, right? And you guys are in the first 2, right? Is create cash or generate cash and create cash flow, right? Step 3 is to become an accredited investor, right? And so you do step 1 and 2 to achieve number 3.
Yeah, number 3 is happening, ongoing.
Exactly.
Always, yeah.
Number 3 happens by doing step 1 and 2, right? And step 3 is, $200,000 income or $1 million net worth. And so when you're buying assets and when you're generating cash through active income, all of a sudden, and it's one or the other. It's the income or the net worth. And that puts you into the accredited investor status. And the whole purpose of doing that is to open yourself up to step 4, which is to diversify and buy back your time and get out of the need to be the active investor doing, because now you have capital and you have investment cash that you can put into other operators' investment vehicles. And some people might look at that and say, isn't that going right back into the stock market where you don't have any control? Well, no, it's not. It's you're taking the cash you're generating and you're continuing to pour it back into building your own controlled portfolio, but you only have so much time. And so some of that excess cash that you're generating and cash flow that you're pulling off, go start to park it into other real estate related funds and investments or syndications or more passive investments to diversify. And so, when I sit and watch, the process that people go through, it's fun to sit back and say, man, I've been doing it for 20 years. I see what I did that I liked. I see what I did that I made harder than it had to be. And I'm watching you jump in and do it, I think, a better way than I did it. Because I did active income without building the passive side of it for too long. And I kind of let me step that back, because in my first 18 months, I bought like 40 houses. So I bought a lot of property, bought or controlled. Hard money, private money, owner financing, subject to sandwich lease option, traditional financing. I financed or funded the acquisitions in all sorts of different ways. Portfolio of close to 40 houses. I wasn't a very good manager at the time, and I didn't understand how the whole portfolio fit together. And so I ended up selling a lot of those. And then in 06 and 07, I started to feel like, man, I think we're at the top of the market. So I started to liquidate a lot of my portfolio then. And so I sold a lot of the portfolio. And some of those houses are the ones I regret selling. Because I bought houses that are now worth $700,000-$800,000, and I bought them for 50, 60 grand. What? And I sold them for 100 and something, right? Crazy. 15 years later, if I would have just bought and held. Yeah, I would have gone through the up. I would have gone through the crash. I maybe would have had negative equity for a season. I would have been upside down, but they still cash flowed. I should have held them, because now I'd be 5, 6, 7x where I was, and a lot of them would be paid off. Oh, well.
Let's not just completely overlook the fact that you still made money on them. You still sold. Hindsight's always right. This is why the saying exists.
That's right.
It's not that you lost.
No, I didn't lose it all.
Right. You could have won bigger.
That's right.
We've all got, every long-term investor looks back and says, that was the one. But at the time, you probably didn't know that was the one or the two or the market or the portfolio or the whatever.
That's right.
So, all that to say, you could have won bigger than you did. You still won.
Yep.
Still in a great spot.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. How clear are you guys about your objectives outside of the goals that we identify and help people identify through those steps of that wealth journey and stuff that we talked about in the Mogul Academy? How personally for you guys, asking, do you guys have personal goals that you're shooting for real estate?
Yes. My wife and I do something similar that, Freedom Soft or tech companies do in general, where you do 1, 5, 10 specifically.
Yep.
And we've written down and or talked about those things in those categories, whether that be for myself personally, for herself personally, and for us together, both on the business side of things and on the just adventurous side of things. So there are things that we would like to do in both of those categories, and they are in 1, 5, 10 basically.
So 1 year, 5 years, 10 years?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Got it. Mike?
Yeah, and I think, full disclosure here, we could use some clarity on a couple of them. We have let's see. We were in Steamboat 3 years ago, and the rodeo was in town. And we didn't go to the rodeo because we didn't have tickets. I think it was sold out. But we went down by the horses, and this kind of changed where we've been talking. But the kids went, we're petting horses, we're feeding horses. Angela, who works with us, her daughter barrel races, and we all of a sudden got exposed to this. So one of the ones that we're working towards is we want some property. We live in a neighborhood now, and the city is a great spot. We're in a great spot. There's nothing wrong with where we're at, but we would love to wake up to some property, to a couple large 900-pound animals, and that kind of thing. So. No,
that was my sheep impression. No. Do you like that?
I did like it, but slightly larger. So, yeah, but we could use another, some more conversation about some clarity around it. And, Kenzie was asking me the other day, Daddy, when are we going to live on a ranch? And it just came up I think we were hitting the tennis ball across the street back and forth, and that came out. And so, that Steamboat trip specifically kind of changed, and our kids are, hey, what we want a little space.
So you have
horses.
a vision. So you want to live on a ranch.
Yep.
So how are you going to use real estate investing to accomplish that goal?
Yeah, so I think you were talking about it on the training yesterday, 5 and 1, right? I'm not going to reinvent this wheel. Wholesale 5, look to own 1. Wholesale 5, look to own 1. So
And how does that then get you to owning the ranch?
Right. So, well, it's cash in, cash flow simultaneously.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I'm not going to reinvent it. I like the 5 and 1.
So wholesale 5.
Yep.
Buy 1. Wholesale 5. Buy
And
1.
it may not be exactly that, but that's the kind of the framework of it. And same thing, I think it was yesterday, right?
Yep.
You put 5 and 1 on the screen. Yep.
Well, I think
virtual market challenge.
Right. It's the thing that for 20 some years I've always done. I've always had a vision of what my target is. I've always had a vision of what my objective is. And I've always stepped back and I've asked, how is business and my investment approach going to serve my life? A lot of times I think what happens is people let their life serve their business versus their business serve their life. Bringing back this concept of work-life balance, are you working for your business or does your business work for you? Right? And most entrepreneurs, if they're being honest, would have to say they work for their business.
Yep. Most
people would say that. And so this is where vision and life by design comes into play. What do you want out of life? What is your perfect day? When you think about your perfect day, your perfect week, what does it look like and how do you utilize real estate investing to achieve it? That's the question people have to answer. And if they can get clear on that, right? So you've got the vision of owning a ranch. You want a ranch. How are you going to get there and how long is it going to take? And what do you have to do? What does the sprint and the hustle look like to make that a reality, right? Because one of the things I think that's important with goals is putting a timeline to them. If you don't put a timeline to a goal, that time just keeps on ticking away. And the goal never materializes because there's no target that you're truly shooting for.
So true.
Steve Miller Band.
Yeah.
Time
keeps on ticking away.
I didn't inject that quite fast enough, but
so
want to make sure and get it.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So so I love it. So ranch in 2 years. So back up to today. This now becomes educational because this is the stuff that we teach all the time, right? We're the guys teaching this authoritatively to people because, we take my frameworks, we take what I've done, and we say, here's what you have to do to go accomplish it. Okay? We're putting you on the hot seat today. You didn't even know this was going to happen. 2 years. Back up to today. What do you have to do today to make that a reality in 2 years?
Yeah. So where I've landed is, and back into the season of moving back into the season of actively wholesaling is 2 to 4 deals a month.
Yep.
That's my initial target. 2 will cut it. 4 is better. But I'm going to go start wholesaling 2 to 4 deals a month.
Yep.
On the side. And that is what will start to move us into. And then we're going to be...
Start to move you into what?
Start to move us into the direction of where we want to be in 2 years. And I'm not exactly sure specifics of it. I'm pretty sure in Colorado. There's a few different parts of the state that we like, right? We've got family here. But we're not completely landed on some of that location stuff just yet. But I'm looking at it. In 2 years, that's where we want to be. And, I appreciate the questions because I'm probably not as clear as I could or should be at this point. But
the reason I'm asking is
today
because
or
most
now,
aren't.
2 to 4, start getting back into the rhythm of 2 to 4 deals a month.
Yeah. So what I tend to do is I'll take a couple of hours on a Saturday morning or a Thursday night or whatever. I'll either go sit in my office, close the door, sit in my office and think, or I'll go out to a coffee shop, or I'll go up into the mountains and fly fish, or go out for a long run, and I'll think, and that's where my planning time comes into play, right? You've got to time manage planning into it. Too many people just start doing, and they start blindly doing with no engineering for the outcome, right? Because what you have to say is, okay, what does a ranch cost? How much do you need to buy a ranch? You gonna pay cash for it? Are you gonna finance it? What's your plan for the ranch? What's your target price, target acquisition for a ranch? Then you got to back up and you got to say, okay, if I'm going to wholesale 5 and buy one, how many of those, how many buys do you have to make in order to replace your income? Okay, your income is covered, right? Now what you make coaching here with Freedom Soft and being a part of the team here is gravy, right? And so that's just high income, high paid active income, because real estate is now covering all of the expenses. So the question you got to ask is, how many wholesales and how many acquisitions does it take to get to the place where the expenses are covered? Because now the wholesale deals that you make net of taxes all go into the lifestyle piece. This is why I always tell people, generate cash and then create cash flow. And cash flow is about having passive income that replaces the expenses. More income than outgo, passively, whether you're working or not. So now the active work you do at Freedom Soft, in real estate, all goes into feeding and funding your lifestyle and the things that you want out of life. And so, again, these are the things that I have for years always, I was just wired as an engineer to step back and say, what am I shooting for? And then reverse engineer the math and the activity required to do that. So 2 to 4 wholesale deals a month. That would mean in 2 years, that would mean on the high side, 4 times 24, that would be 96 wholesale deals in 2 years. Let's just say that you make, what's the average wholesale flip? How much are you going to make on each one? Average that you're going to stick into Hip Pocket National Bank.
7.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. $7,000. So that's $672,000. Now you're gonna take that $672,000 and you're gonna say, how many rentals am I gonna buy with this money along the way that ultimately replace my outgo, my expenses? And then what do I have left over? To determine that's at 4, because if you cut that in half, that's at 2. 336,000. So does that math get you the ranch? This is the lesson. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm using this as a conversational lesson for everybody else to be thinking about. Does this get you the ranch? And
yeah, you reverse engineer it and work it backwards, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because then what you can say is, well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. What do I have to adjust? Do I have to increase the volume of deals that I do monthly?
Volume or margin?
Do I have to increase the margin, or do I have to extend the time? Right? So increase the volume, increase the margin, or extend the time. And so one of the things that I would throw into this mix to start to answer this question a little bit, right? You've got the wholesale piece. Wholesaling then drives the cash to acquire rentals. But what we didn't throw into the equation was how does private money come into this equation for you? Because now, using private money, you can accomplish both birds with one stone. You can kill two birds with one stone.
So the birds live in this scenario?
Yes.
That's awesome.
The birds are a fan.
Both birds are flying away, so you can kill two birds with one stone, and i.e. you can get the cash and the cash flow from one purchase, right? And you can, if you buy it right, which that's what we teach people to do, right? This is why, like, buying from another wholesaler is great. Buying through a real estate agent is fine. But when you build the systems to go direct to seller, you buy cheaper, you buy better deals, you get to cherry pick the best, and it really feeds and funds your portfolio. Perfect case in point, you wholesaled three, you bought one, and you picked the best one for the one you're closing, what, tomorrow? Friday.
I wired the money this morning.
You wired the money this morning, right? So you picked the best one, you cherry picked. And so
that's so I want to touch on that, because if we're talking about me, 1, 5, and 10 years, right?
Yep.
1 year, well, you have a 1 year every year, right? So when I first started Freedom Soft, personally, I wanted to move to Colorado. I wanted to get married, right? That was me personally. On the business side of things, I wasn't doing real estate yet, but when I started doing that, it was, for the first year, it was wholesale 3 to 5 deals per month. Wasn't thinking about rentals yet.
Yep.
At the end of last year, I said at some point when the new year starts, I will buy a rental.
Yep.
And when the year started, I said I want 5 by the end of the year, 20 in 5 years, and I don't know how many in 10 years.
Yep.
But that was 1 in 5. It was 5 by the end of this year, 20 in 5 years, basically. And when you reverse engineer the 5-year mark, this is where having private money definitely comes in handy.
Yep.
Because what I learned is, while I could wholesale for the year to do 5 and then buy 1, I can definitely ramp it up and move faster, but work less as on the wholesaling side of things, always keeping that in my back pocket. But then I can just cherry pick and then just go straight to private money. I don't have that yet, but if we're talking about next year's goal, it's to have that accomplished before the middle of next year, to make the 20 goal faster in 5 years.
Well, it's conversations like this that for me historically have always brought private money out of the woodwork, and people approach me, right? They come to me and say, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years. You've bought a couple thousand houses. You built a big portfolio. You sold portfolio. You've built portfolio again. You've done it all over the country. And you can talk about the math. Like, I can buy a house without even thinking about it. Kind of like I can buy a hamburger, right? Honestly, I can buy a house kind of like buying a hamburger, because it's not that complicated, right? It's pretty simple. And so having these conversations and being able to talk about plans, goals, visions, approach, all of the stuff usually makes people raise their hand. When you're intelligent and authoritative and know what you're talking about, and then somebody that doesn't have the same level of knowledge or experience but knows they somehow want to play the game in real estate, those hands will get raised and people will come out of the woodwork and come to you and say, how do I get involved? And that's where some of your best private lenders typically come from. And then they know friends, and they know friends of friends, and this network starts to build. And so I always talk about being a teacher, right? That's why we do this, right? Be a teacher and teach people how to make money in real estate. And if you don't want to be an active investor, if you don't want to buy, if you don't want to be the landlord, but you want to park your cash secured by real estate, covered by insurance, with an active operator that has experience, a private lender, being a private lender, is a fantastic place to go. Where else are you going to get that kind of a return? Again, secured by real estate, covered by insurance, and in the hands of an operator on a single family house that has multiple exit strategies. If a private lender comes to me and says, hey, I want my money back, I either pay that off, I sell the house, or I put a new private lender in place of them. Simple. And so it's a great place for people to be, and people will start coming to you and wanting to participate if you play that teacher role. And that's a big piece of it. Mike, if I just go back to the $7,000 per deal times 24 months times 4 deals, that's $672,000. What's the all in? What are you going to pay for a rental house? All in.
A rental?
Yep.
Rental house?
Yep.
70 to 90.
So
typically.
we're going to say 80?
60 to 80.
60 to 80, so 70?
Call it 70.
Call it 70.
Mm-hmm.
So 672 divided by 70,000. If you were to pay cash, you would have 9.5. Let's round it to 10. Let's round it to 10 rental properties. If you took that money, wholesale 5, buy 1. Wholesale 5, buy 1. Stack that cash up, and then just pay cash for 1. So you're going to have 10 properties at the end of that 2-year period of time. What do they typically rent for? Those houses that you're buying between 60 and 80.
950.
So 9 times 950. You've got 950 times 10. So you got $9,500 a month in net positive cash flow gross, minus taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, vacancy. So we're going to take out 30% operating costs right off the top. So times 0.7. So you've got $6,650 a month net positive cash flow if you took $672,000 and paid all cash.
Yep.
Okay. And you don't have that cash. It's all parked into the real estate. So the question then, where you start to analyze this is you analyze it and say, okay, do I need to accelerate and do more deals? Do I need to increase my margin, or do I need to extend my time? Or do I need to structure the deal slightly different, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to build your portfolio, you want to build your real estate portfolio so that you have cash in the bank, income exceeds your outgo, and then you use that to fund your real estate lifestyle. And I tend to be a no debt guy. So I like to analyze a deal first and say, what does it look like if I had no debt? Then I can go back and I can say, well, how many more could I buy if I were to leverage responsibly, utilizing private money? So let's just think about that for a second, right? If you did the same wholesale game, right? And you generated that same $672,000. How much private money would you need to go get in order to buy income replacing cash flow, right? So if you just look at one house, and the purchase of, say, average of $70,000, what's that house worth? You're all in at 70, so purchase plus repairs, what's it worth?
95 to 110 probably.
So
100.
Call it 100. So if you're paying 70 and it's worth 100, and your lender lends 70, they're in a 70 cents on the dollar scenario. They got 30% of equity above them to protect them.
Yep.
And they've got cash flow. And they've got an operator that's been doing this for 15 years. So you can start to reverse engineer a cash strategy, a private lending strategy, and if you buy that deal at 60 and you borrow the 70, purchase plus repairs at 60, borrow 70, lender's in the exact same position, but you put $10,000 cash in your pocket, that you don't pay taxes on. Now, every asset you buy and cash flow you create, you put cash in your pocket. And so let's do some quick math and kind of talk about this for a second. If you bought a $70,000, if you're all in at 70, so the lender pays you 70,000 or gives you 70,000, and let's say you're paying your private lender 7%, you're going to pay them $408 a month. Rents were what, $950?
Yep.
$950 before Tim V. So $950 times 0.7, $665 minus $405. You got a $260 a month net positive cash flow. And if you bought it right, you got $10,000 in your pocket.
Per deal.
Per deal. So to get to, let's just say $10,000 to replace, let's say $10,000 is the income you're trying to replace. You take $10,000 divided by 260, you got to buy 38 houses. To buy 38 houses and borrow $70,000 on each one, you got to have $2.7 million in private money. Now you've done some math to say, okay, what do I got to do here? How does this all play out? What do I have to do to accomplish that goal? And I don't know that we've answered the final question, but we've given some ways to think about it, both in a all cash scenario and a cash flow scenario. Yep. Does any of this help impact how you're going to approach that goal?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is some of the math. I don't have a calculator on me or my phone, which is kind of weird, but yeah, maybe it's likely a mix of both. Mm-hmm. There's probably some cash and some,
100%
private lenders on it, and at the end of the day, it's likely a mixed bag.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you borrowed it all with private money, you need $2.7 million in private money to accomplish that goal. But that also means you are still flipping over here, and you've got $672,000 cash in the bank at the same time. So
you didn't pay cash and you didn't come out of pocket 20%.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And you bought 38 houses so that you put $10,000 in your pocket on each one. So you got $380,000 plus $672,000. You got over $1 million cash in that scenario as well. I think the point that I'm making here for people is that if you can figure out how to bring private money into your portfolio building strategy, it's like gasoline on the fire, right? It cuts into the net cash flow of each house, but it's gasoline on the fire from an asset building perspective, and it allows the other investment vehicles and things you're doing to build your cash position.
Yep.
It's huge.
Yep.
It is huge. Well, guys, let's do this. This has been another fun one. We talked less specific real estate strategy, but I think what we talked about here is how does life by design fit into this concept of investing in real estate? And do you have a vision that you're shooting for and a target that you're trying to hit? Because if you don't, step back, take some time out, sit down and think about it and build a vision. Make sure that your business, your real estate investments are serving the life you want to live. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, you're going to be happy about it. And these seasons of hustle and this imbalance of work life doesn't ever feel like an imbalance. I started this by saying I don't think there's balance. I think you're imbalanced one way or the other. But my life never feels unbalanced because I love what I do on both sides, and I've incorporated them together as a whole. It's not I do one thing here and I do another thing there. It's together. Mm-hmm. I do this as who I am because I like it, and it's fun, and I've designed and defined what that looks like for me. So, guys, let's do this. Let's move to a little roundup. Oh, you know what? I gotta just tell this final fun little story, because this is life by design. So I grew up around airplanes. My grandpa was a World War II pilot. My dad was a private pilot. Neither one of them flew commercially, but they both owned airplanes. So I always grew up around airplanes. The other day, my son and I, this is Nick up on the screen here if you guys are looking at this on YouTube. He and I jumped in the airplane. So a few years ago, I bought an airplane. This is what real estate investing can do for you. I wanted an airplane. I used real estate to buy an airplane. I bought an airplane. We jump in the airplane the other day. We fly down to Colorado Springs just for hey, let's go down and get back. We'll put a little warmth into the engine. We'll stretch the legs. We'll put this thing through a little bit of an exercise routine for the day. And as we were coming back into Colorado Springs, or back into Denver, I noticed that the airport was starting to get completely socked in. And I thought, whoa, man, you know what? Didn't think much about it, other than I know that when you see radar surrounding the airport, but the airport is clear, it's likely that the winds have picked up significantly inside of that pocket. So I listened to the wind. And it's like, I don't know, 22 gusting 28. That's pretty strong winds, a little bit of gust, but no big deal. And well within my personal minimums, don't think another thing of it. So I keep going, and all of a sudden, we just hit this rock of like turbulence, like moderate to severe turbulence. And the plane just starts, it was hard to talk on the radios. We were getting thrown around so bad. And it was perfectly blue sky, sunny air, and we were just getting rocked. Now, I could see the precipitation around the airport, but the airport was still clear. But we're getting rocked. I get cleared into runway 30 right at Rocky Mountain Metro Airport. There's an airplane right ahead of us. And I turn final, and we're coming in, and the wind is whipping. Like, I can feel it. And the guy in front of me, as he's coming in on short final, the air traffic control says to the Cessna in front of me, hey, Cessna, winds like 38 gusting 44. He puts it down on the runway, not pretty, but gets it down, and immediately veers to the left. Like the winds just catches wings, and he keeps it together. He slows down. He gets off the runway. It's all good. I'm now on short final. And I'm like, I'm thinking, okay, those are pretty stout winds. I'm just going to take this sporty landing to the ground. And I'm going to get it on the ground. I'm short final. Tower comes to me. Mooney, winds 42 gusting 48. Winds had picked up.
Right, again.
Again. So 3 times now I've listened to the winds get worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, you know what? There became a moment in time where I determined that me putting the airplane on the ground was not in my control, safely, was not fully in my control. And normally when I land, it's fully in my control. The winds were whipping so much and going crossways, and like it was so bad that I'm like, I just got to go around. So I push power, hold the yoke, retract the gear, and I call tower, and I'm saying, Mooney going around. And they could see that the wind was nasty. And they basically said, Mooney, cleared for whatever you need. You can go right or left, your choice.
Right.
As soon as I called it.
Because they know they don't want to be in your seat.
Yeah. As soon as I called it,
want.
the guy behind me, and there was 3 guys lined up in sequence behind me. The 3 guys behind me called, going around. This isn't going to work. Going around. Also going around. Like I hear it, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And so we all go, and she gives clearance to all these guys. Hey, guys, do whatever you need. Cleared for anything. Like I've never heard Tower say.
Do what you want.
Cleared for anything.
Right.
Fly wherever you need to fly. Anyway, long story short, this picture is my son and I. We flew over to Longmont Airport, landed there, still sporty but safe, and we just sat out the storm. And we took an Uber home. We went and had dinner. We watched the storm pass. We drive back up to the airport. I pick up the
That's the
airplane.
funny part. We took an Uber home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting at the airport, we're like, let's just go home. It was $20.
Right.
So we took an Uber home. And anyway, long story short, we eat dinner. We watch the storms pass. I go pick up the airplane, which here's taking off out of Longmont. My son stayed on the ramp. He drove me up there, dropped me off. I jumped in the plane. We take off. And as I'm coming back into Rocky Mountain Metro, winds are calm. Here's my pattern entry. For all of you pilots out there, that is a freaking good-looking pattern right there. Come on. That is good. But I want you guys to see right at the beam the numbers there on my blue line. I was 1,000 feet above the ground, and this is what the air traffic control said. He said, Mooney, you got two options depending on how you're feeling. I can give you a short approach and get you in ahead of the Citation Jet on 6 Mile Final, or extend and I'll bring you in behind him. I said, what are the winds? He said, winds calm. I said, I'll take the short approach. And I chopped the power, I dropped the wings, and I just arced it down 1,000 feet right to the landing, and it was smooth and butter, and that's my story.
That's cool.
Incredible.
Don't mess up. Citation coming in hot.
That's right. Now he was coming in, and literally I landed, taxied back on the high speed back to the ramp, and by the time I'm crossing the taxiway, he's landing. Like, he was right on me. So I literally did have to be as fast as I was to
Such
get
an
to the
interesting job being ATC.
Yeah.
And adjusting all these speeds.
Right.
Because they're vastly different.
Correct.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, guys, into the mogul memes section, the segment that has us laughing. Here's number one: contractors wanting to get paid on Friday afternoon. Fix and flip investors running away from
I forgot
the
about
natives.
this one, Joe. Yeah, this is Jack Sparrow running away from all the natives that are trying to kill him. And if you've ever flipped a house, then you'll find this humorous. If you haven't, it's not funny.
Yeah.
There was a guy one time that was begging me to get paid on a Friday afternoon because his wife was putting the clamps down. She had to get up to Central City to gamble.
Yeah.
And I got the impression by the look on his face, he was either getting paid or he was
Right.
sleeping out back with the dog.
Right. Now there's some
amazing.
Sad scenario, but anyway, this reminded me of that guy.
Now you're going to have to set this one up, Rob.
All right, let's see. When your field team goes above and beyond and licks the wallpaper.
This came from the field rep checklist. You were doing the census.
This came from the, let's see. Did this come from the Virtual Market Challenge?
No.
Did
This came from Real Estate Mogul Academy.
Okay, one
You
of our
were-
mogul trainings?
You were teaching them to teach people to use the senses and let you know about what they see,
the
smell.
Your South Carolina
Sorry,
got in there. I couldn't understand what word you were saying.
your senses.
Census. I thought he said census.
Right, when you start counting people.
Sorry,
The census. Got it. Yeah.
the Southern came out there.
And I'm going to give it to him. Henry's from North Carolina, not South Carolina, but we call him SoCar around here.
That's right.
Okay, so there's 5 senses. And I was telling people that when you go in and you have your field team walk a house for you and get pictures and video, on the video, I want them to tell you, what do they see? What do they feel? What do they hear? What do they smell? And there's one more sense. And I couldn't think of what it was as I was teaching this live training, and I was writing all of the other ones down and on a notability pencil with an Apple iPhone or iPad, and I couldn't remember taste.
Well, one of the viewers chatted in and said, "I hope no one's tasting the house."
Hey, I think our field reps should take it to that next level, and they should taste the real estate. Imagine what we might find. There's some food left in houses that we walk.
Oh,
I mean,
gross.
it's tasteable.
That is tasteable.
Yeah.
Not tasty, but tasteable.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, trying to get leads before Freedom Soft, trying to get leads with Freedom Soft. I like it. Who's
Incredible.
this?
This is a cool comic book thing.
Yeah, cool comic book. Stressed out dude looking at his laptop before Freedom Soft, high-fiving himself, woo, with the suit on after Freedom Soft. I think I'd skip the suit and go with some T-shirt.
Go
but
with
hey,
some flip-flops.
yeah, T-shirt and flip-flops, so that's all good. I like it. And that's it, guys. That's a wrap for today's show. It's been fun, and we'll do this again next time. Thanks for being here, everybody. Remember, go like the show on YouTube, subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Share it with your friends. And this show has been brought to you by FreedomSoft. Go check it out, freedomsoft.com. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Peace. Later.